Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. 2 days away, Callow. 2 days away from what could be, in my opinion, would be maybe the biggest upset in playoff history that the Commanders have pulled off if they do it, right? Could be.
Yeah, because I mean, their success is usually when they're a very good regular season team. They were good, not like great this season, like historically great in terms of like 91 Super Bowl expectations. I don't want to say because they do have stats that back that up, but yes, I would absolutely say this. I started to break this down on my show. I don't know if you've done this. Can you name me the elite quarterbacks that the Lions have played this year? Did you look at that?
No. So they've
Okay.
got what? Darnold twice. Love was hurting up and down all year. Caleb obviously had his rookie season.
Yep.
They played Stafford, right? Beat him.
That was
Played
week one,
Baker,
though. That was
right?
week one. Week one,
Week
Stafford.
one.
Week two,
Played Baker,
Baker.
lost to him.
Week two.
Right? Do you count Purdy? I don't know. And that was also very late in the season. I don't know if you count that one.
I said elite.
I'd have to go. Let me see. I got their schedule in front of me. Let's take a look.
I said elite, not very good. Elite.
Okay. I don't know if you count Dak in that, but Dak, yeah, and Josh Allen. They lost to Josh Allen.
So that's the one.
That's the one.
one.
That's true. That's true. I mean, they played all these teams early. Rams, Buccaneers were early. Kyler, Geno, Dak, Darnold, I guess Levis, Love, CJ Stroud. They beat them. They actually did. That was the game that they was like with us. They had 5 turnovers in that game and won anyway.
Correct.
Right? And that's what I was kind of like, Houston, you guys stink. Like, how in the world do you lose that one? But we had one of those too. We beat a good team, playoff team, doing something like that. Jaguars, no. Colts, no. Bears, no. Packers. Love was a disappointment, I think, this year. A lot of injuries. Then they got Josh Allen, lost. And then what? Bears, Niners, Vikings. Yeah, you're right.
So we would have played this game.
Anything like this. I agree.
Bears fans wanted to play this game with us, 7 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
And
I'm not in. They were in irrational talking mode. And like the whole time we're sitting there going, you guys are just upset because you see how good our guy is. And it's like upsetting you.
Correct.
And the whole time I'm sitting there going, one, because I'm rooting for Caleb. He's local. That I'm like, I think he's going to be fine. I think you guys had a bad setup. We knew this in the spring. Like, you guys have a bad setup, and here it is. Like, you better get this hiring right, because if you don't, you're going to screw this guy's career up, or he's going to go somewhere else. Like, we've lived every bad scenario you could have. We've lived it. So, like, we know what it looks like when it's off. And so I think he'll end up being good, but they were irrational. He wasn't even playing that well. They were so irrational about it. They were just trying to convince themselves that they made the right choice. And now they're probably sitting there going, they didn't, even though I don't believe that. Like, I believe that all 3 of these top 3 quarterbacks are going to end up being good. I think they're all going to end up being good. I think Nick's has turned out to be in the right place with the right coach and is going to be good. How good? I don't know. Good. McCarthy's obviously, who knows? But like, this quarterback class is looking like it may go down as really, really, really good if the Bears fans don't lose their mind. But back to your other point, which is you're suggesting the Lions haven't seen anything like this yet.
I mean, I'm not saying Josh Allen isn't that. Like, Josh Allen is the MVP candidate of the year, could win MVP, should probably win MVP.
And they lost to him and gave up 42 points to him.
At home. Not in Buffalo, because there's a difference there. They did it at home. And so I'm just saying, everyone wants to play this game with our team, with the Commanders, saying they got lucky at the last second. They didn't play people. Like, it was more the first half of the season. People were going, oh, they haven't played anybody. And granted, their schedule looks better now. Also, go look at some of the scores of those games. They skirted by Arizona. Remember, the Bears had a chance to win that game on Thanksgiving. That game against Green Bay was very close the following Thursday. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the Bears should have won the Thanksgiving game. That was the one where they had to fire Eberflus because the time management was so utterly stupid that it made no sense to anybody, and everybody on earth saw it.
That's right. He got fired the next day. And granted, I get it. We beat him on a Hail Mary. But everyone wants to play this game and nitpick our schedule. Well, I decided to do it yesterday. And you know what? I'm impressed by the record. Don't get me wrong. It's very impressive. And they broke Darnold. And I'm giving them all the credit in the world. But why are they not being nitpicked as much as we are when it comes to schedule, quarterbacks played, and all of that? And look at some of the scores of those games. And granted, they blow out teams like they're supposed to, just like we did. But I'm just saying, credit where credit is due sometimes, or not credit where credit isn't supposed to be due sometimes. I think people should be talking about that a little bit more because Jaden is different than anyone they played besides Allen.
Let's see. After they beat the Colts 24-6 and beat the Jaguars 52-6.
Yes, as I said, supposed to do.
That was Thanksgiving, and they barely won and shouldn't have, or at least it should have gotten to overtime. It's just stupid that the Bears didn't at least get them to overtime just because of the way they handled the game. Remember, they just didn't call a timeout and the clock ran out. It was like one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life.
And us too. Like we get that too. Like we got the Bears on a weird win too. So
let's see. Then they beat the Packers at home 34-31. But I mean, I think the Packers season was very much alive for them. And I still think the Packers, they're a playoff team. They were a very good team.
And you got to remember, that was the best Thursday night game because they both played on Thursday for Thanksgiving. So that was like a normal game too. That was the best Thursday game of the year. That was close.
Then they got the Bills and lost 48-42. I have a funny feeling that this one Saturday night could feel a little bit like that. I don't really like our chances getting into something like that, but who knows? Then they beat the Bears handily. Then they went to the 49ers. Their season was over. They'd already been eliminated.
Yes.
And they gave up 34, and the Niners could have easily won. Right. Which is very telling about where Detroit's defense is right now. And then the recency bias of it, which is why I think I'm freaked and everybody should be freaked, is one, their record, two, their offense scores prolifically, like historically prolifically, three, their speed, which I'll get into in a minute, and four, the last game they played was a de facto playoff game, and they killed those dudes.
Sure.
Well, actually, they killed Darnold.
Yes. Right. Exactly.
That game was 10-9 in the third quarter.
Yep.
It was 10-9. It wasn't like they were running that team off the field. They weren't. Darnold in the red zone was horrific. Like, missed a million. I just watched this game again last night. He missed a lot of throws. I'm not saying they would have won, but they broke him. I don't know what they did to him, but they broke him. They didn't break that team. They broke him, which carried over, and that's why they're out of the playoffs. He was terrible in that game against the Rams the other day. Anyway, I'll hear you on that. I'm looking for any kind of hope and hype too. Like the reality here is this too. Like, this is what they can't get away from. They've given up a ton of points since they've had all these injuries. Like, if they didn't lose the amount of people that they've lost on defense, I would basically call them unbeatable with the offense that they're putting out there. But because they're working with backups specifically across the front, because they're missing so many people, they're giving up a ton of points. Like, week 14 through 17 allowed 428 yards a game, 32 points a game. Week 18 was different with Darnold, but we just talked about what happened. They got in the red zone a million times, and he was terrible. Like, they should have scored more points than they did. They didn't have a problem actually moving the ball. They got stunted when they got in the red zone. But the 3 weeks before, 428 yards, 32 points per game. Good luck holding us to 9. Like, nobody's done that to us this year.
Right.
Good luck. So that's like, I agree. There's like hope here. It's not like you're beating an unbeatable team. This isn't the Chiefs because they haven't been them yet.
That's right. Like, and that's what I'm getting at here too. And I'm not trying to put like all of my stock into this because we literally lived this year, right? Where we had every week the opposing team would write us off because of all the reasons we're listing. But I will say you're a fool if you think that they're this perfect number one seed that has, played a bunch of really good opponents and played elite quarterbacks and been perfect. They haven't been. And I'm just saying there's a pathway here. There is a full-fledged 100%. Pathway here for this team to win. I mean, that's what I'm getting at here. I'm not hopeless is what I'm getting at.
I'm not hopeless at all. I've said this for a while. I put nothing past this team. Nothing. Okay. I do believe it would be an upset, but like I put nothing past them. And I've said this for a couple of weeks now, underestimate them at your own risk. Yep. And if we get into a 1-score game with them in the fourth quarter and you give our guy the ball back, that place is going to get real tight, real fast, because we've just done it too many times. This guy is too cool, calm, collected. And frankly, your defense has to blitz to try to get pressure. Good luck with that against our guy. So I trust 5. It's funny when we were talking about this yesterday, and I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, this game is so meaningful in exactly what we're launching into, because there's a lot of me that feels like this is us looking at them in 2 years, with the exception of, our quarterback is more Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson than Jared Goff. No offense to Jared Goff, who's amazing in this offense, but our guy can do things that he cannot do. And it's going to give us flexibility of a very different offense moving forward because of his athletic gifts and athletic ability. That's not Goff. He ain't running anywhere, right? He's not doing anything with his legs. But the whole like cut from the same cloth idea resonates with me. Like, the head coach is defensive minded. The head coach is very just kind of rally the troops, set a tone, like may or may not be doing the X's and O's, but kind of embodies what the program's about. And then everyone gets in line and follows them. They're extremely tough. They're extremely aggressive. They both live by these mottos of, we'll take you on anywhere. We don't care. It's about us. It ain't about you. You're going through us. You got to deal with us. All the same mottos, right? And I think like our roster hopefully is going to look like theirs, at least offensively, in a year or two. And Adam Peters has a chance to get a couple more off seasons in him where we're using the draft picks and the cap room and all that stuff. And we're getting more weapons on the field. And then all of a sudden it's going to look a little bit different. And then there's the other side of it, which is because this quarterback is who it is, because Dan Quinn is not a first-time head coach and has won before and gotten to a Super Bowl before, there is a little of the Chiefs here going on. And this game embodies like what trajectory they're really on. Because if they're going to be able to go up there and beat a 15-2 team who's off a bye on a short week in front of their crowd, where the get-in price is absurd because these people have been waiting their life to see this team go to the Super Bowl. Well, we might not be talking about we're the Lions in 2 years. We might be talking about we're the Chiefs. Because that's where this thing is kind of heading, where we have a quarterback that elevates people differently. The Chiefs, once Tyreek Hill left, name the great receivers that are playing on that team. Right. Name the great running backs that are playing on that team. They're all very good players, no disrespect. But come on, that also isn't Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, just like we're talking about with our team. Who's your number two? Who's their number two? Like, tell me who their number two is. They don't have a problem scoring on people because the quarterback is so good and the coaching is so good that it overcomes some personnel deficiencies because you can't have everybody. We're in this weird window. This guy that we have is extraordinary. And, we've got a window where we're not paying him a lot of money. That's going to change in a few years. I'm not sure which trajectory we're on. And I think if I were the Lions, I'd be a little scared about that in general, because if we can beat them now, is it ever going to be their time?
That's what I said in preseason. I said their biggest fear is that somehow this team gets into the playoffs and strikes the fear of God in them. And all of a sudden you're going to be dealing with this other quarterback on the NFC on top of everyone else, right? Like on top of Jalen Hurts and possibly, JJ McCarthy, if he ends up working out. Like that's their one. It's like, I'm not trying to kill Jared Goff here, but if you have Jared Goff versus an elite quarterback in crunch time, we all know who you're going to take, right? Yeah. So like that's where their fear is coming in here. And to your point with the Chiefs too, they do have a Hall of Fame tight end. And this year that tight end has disappeared essentially. And they're still doing what they're doing.
They still have 2 losses.
Yeah. Like it's so ridiculous what they're doing with just him at quarterback. And like, I'm not saying no one else, but fine players around him, not unlike what we're doing.
I mean, it's so funny. Like, last year, I remember I said the story yesterday. My buddy said to me, he goes, y'all screwed up. He goes, this is the worst team we've had during this, quote unquote dynasty, which it is. And he's like, and so we're going to be better next year. He's right. Here they are this year. They're not nearly as dynamic on offense as typically they normally are. And they're still 15-2. Like they don't even have to be the Death Star to win constantly. Here are the things, though, that at least stand out. I'll talk a lot more tomorrow about it, but in watching them, Detroit, like the problem that I think everybody has, and they're very well schemed. Their offensive line's very good. They've got a little Baltimore in them. I don't think people think of them that way, but if they get a lead, the field gets tilted and their offensive line takes over, and they've got 2 pure speed players on this team that I think separates them. Like they're very well schemed. I think Goff is very good. Amon-Ra's terrific, but that outside receiver has a speed level that we're not accustomed to Nobody really is, but like we haven't played a lot of that this year. And Jahmyr Gibbs is really good. And I mean, inside the tackles, outside the tackles, he throttles up like a Porsche. And this is the problem with them. Like they are a big play waiting to happen constantly. And that's what's tough about them. And when you watch them, you just sit there and go like, if you actually go watch this Minnesota game, you'll see it was very close. Like the whole thing, they hung in there with them. And then the bottom dropped out. When they couldn't keep up scoring, all of a sudden, this was kind of like when we played the Eagles the first time around. Eventually, the dam broke and Saquon popped off a couple of big runs, and then the game's just over. These guys have 4 people who can do it, and that's what's scary about them.
As someone that had Jameson Williams on his fantasy team all year, he's very Deshaun Jackson. There were some weeks where he did nothing, and then it was 1 reception for 90 yards and a touchdown. Like that's who he reminds me of, except he's a little bit better of an all-around player than Deshaun was. And yeah, not only that, they get both their running backs too. Like both Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are going to be back here. That worries the hell out of me, because if they somehow even are getting to Goff somehow with this offensive line, those 2 running backs scare the crap out of me, because this team has had trouble, stopping the run. So yeah, it's honestly like, you don't know which way to look. That's what I look at when I look at their offense. You cannot focus on any one person because there are so many pieces on the field at the same time.
Yeah, they're very tough. Amon-Ra's very good. He's their Terry. He's very, very, very good. I agree. Montgomery coming back is a big deal. Gibbs is, God, everyone laughed at them when they made that pick. That dude is a top 3 running back in the NFL. He's different than Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley. I'm not even sure that I wouldn't put him in Saquon's class because of the explosiveness. Henry, if he gets going, you're in trouble because he's a monster truck. But like this guy has got the McCaffrey pure speed. Like if he gets a little crease and goes, he can throttle up unlike very few players. Very good vision, very good player, tougher than I think people probably think he is. He took a hit in that Vikings game early that would have knocked a lot of guys out. Van Ginkel just laid him out on a poorly designed screen pass that was red, and he still scored 4 touchdowns in the game. So he's tough, right? So this guy really is a massive, massive difference maker. He is I think, of the class of these great running backs in the NFL. He's very difficult to deal with. The other one, too, that I think is really problematic for Washington is Laporta, because they've had problems with tight ends all year, and he's a high-end one. So this is a problem. Like that matchup is problematic for Washington, and I would expect that he has a really good game against them because of that matchup. But frankly, I would prefer him to have it than Gibbs or Williams. Amon-Ra is going to get his. He's like Terry. He's going to get his. You just hope he doesn't kill you on something big. Typically, he's not a deep threat. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen with him. The other 2 are home run hitters. This guy, if you want to go slowly down the field with him, I will live with if this guy has 10 catches for 98 yards, because I'd prefer that, knowing it's a bad matchup for us, than the 2 for 125 that Williams could have with a touchdown, because that's the type of high-end possibility that he has.
Now, as I just mentioned, you can't look everywhere, and this screams the guy that they're gonna probably just have to let go a few times. Not let go, but that's gonna get through busted coverage or whatever, that he's gonna bust a few, but hopefully doesn't get the explosives on you. That's the hope essentially with this one. And to your point on like Amon-Ra, like he's gonna get his. Like look at what Evans did. Evans had 90 yards, 89 yards, something like that. Like sometimes with some of these players, they're just going to get the yardage because they're that good. You look at Terry too. It was Terry and Brown, sorry, that both had 89 yards. I think Evans had 92 yards. But yeah, you're just going to have guys that are going to rack up their stats because they're that good.
I'm going to do this tomorrow because I don't have time to do it now, because John Keim's going to be up in a moment. But like the numbers really don't tell the story on either side of either team. I'm going to go through it tomorrow. Like they have what reads to be a very poor pass defense, and yet at the same time, the team's opposing completion percentage is among the worst in the NFL. So is their pass defense bad if the quarterbacks are completing, a low percentage of passes? No, it's not. It's the same thing with, I think Washington's pass defense is ranked number 3. I don't think anyone really believes that, like they give up more chunk plays than most teams. So like, this is going to be this is a really interesting matchup. I do think that this is a test of wills. And in a lot of ways, we're going to find out who gets shook a little bit. And I really don't expect our team to, which I think is what's probably going to surprise. I think this is where some of this unfounded overconfidence from some of the voices that are coming out there, I think they think we're going to walk into this building and they're going to scare the crap out of everybody. And then if they give up some long touchdown, which could easily happen to any one of these players, well, we'll just fold. I don't think you've watched us play. Like, I'm not worried about us losing our composure or getting shook. I mean, we've been in too many close games, which is why let's see how you guys handle a high leverage close game, because you're the ones that typically do crazy things. And so are we in a situation where it's a 1-score game and you guys are going for a 4th and 7 at the 50?
Right.
Let's see.
Like,
right? Let's see.
There are two things here that I think are that if they play out, I really like our chances. It's one, you just mentioned the Vikings game. If it's 10-9 headed into the fourth quarter, we will take that all day. All day we will take that. And your crowd is going to, as we mentioned this yesterday, turn into Game 7 hockey. It's going to get real tight up in there because all of a sudden they're going to see what has been playing out for the last 5 weeks with this team. The other one was I loved Jaden Daniels on Tuesday when once again, they asked him about a hostile environment. And he was just like, nah, none of that bothers me. Like, in the most boring way possible, that there's no way to phase this dude. So everyone's saying, oh, you're walking into the literal lion's den. This guy hasn't been phased all year. So once again, the pathway is sitting right in front of him. You better not let it happen.
I agree. All right, we'll take a quick break. Brady wants to show us at 6:30 to Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. One more thing on the game, like this weekend. So Tom Brady's calling it with Kevin Burkhardt. He's a part owner in Vegas. They want to hire Ben Johnson. That's at least what the reporting would suggest at this point. Here's what I would say to all the people who are, calling this out as that's a little ridiculous that the color analyst of a big high leverage playoff game has invested, his time, energy, and hopes in getting one of these coaches to be his next head coach. I agree that that's ridiculous. However, I think most viewers don't care. And unless he's like going to be just waxing poetic about Ben Johnson the whole time, I actually think it will be revealing to him more than anything. The question will be, is if Washington has success on defense, would he be overly critical about him? I think that's the question I think that most football fans would ask at this point. But I think the most casual viewers that aren't in the bubble that we're in will not care and don't care personally.
No, I agree. And I know they've even said, oh, Brady won't get the same access that everyone has for some of these games. But at the same time, do you not think owners, GMs, whoever are doing all these interviews are getting that same information from everyone else? I'm kind of with you. Is Ben Johnson keeping secrets until he's getting into some of these meetings? No. So I honestly think the resume is literally out there. I'm not putting much stock into it. I think what this is, it's a little Brady Patriots Stockholm syndrome of everyone's like, they're cheating. He's going to figure out a way to game the system. Ben Johnson's a top head coaching candidate, period. What extra information is he going to get or not going to get doing this? I don't know, and I don't really care.
I would be worried the other way around. What's Brady telling him about our defense?
Yeah, no, I agree, actually.
That'd be more the thing I'm concerned about than him sitting there talking about how great Ben Johnson is because he's trying to woo him to take that job, honestly.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, last thing. Caps Sens tonight. Every time we talk about this game, I always just assume that they're going to win. It's this 5 years running of I just assume they're going to beat them, and so I'll just stick with that. I assume they're going to beat them tonight.
Yeah. Once again, the storyline to follow here is Logan Thompson's going to get the second start in a row. I think it's the first time that's happened all year long that's been planned to have a goalie start for 2 games in a row. So all he did at the beginning of this little IR stint for Charlie Lindgren was get a shutout against the Ducks. I expect LT to play really well tonight. Also, hottest hand with the Caps is Ethan Frank right now. So I don't know if you're of the betting type, go look at what his over-under on points is or anytime goal scoring. I would definitely look into that for tonight. But I'm with you. Caps Ottawa, usually a dub for the Caps. Win. I don't know what the score is going to be, but I know they'll probably win this one.
LT, huh? Is that
Oh, you never have I not used that
That's a
on?
thing. LT.
Yeah, LT.
Ladainian Tomlinson, Lawrence Taylor, Logan Thompson. How
Logan
about
Thompson.
that?
By the way, you want to talk about a deal? Logan Thompson gets paid under $1 million, so they have a steal this year on their starting goaltender. They want to re-sign him. That's going to change. So we'll see.
All right, everybody. We'll do the final full preview tomorrow. Bram wants to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.